Ron Fassler, author of the new book, Up in the Cheap Seats, a historical memoir of Broadway. And today, I'm here with Rabbi Sol Solomon on Dave's Gone By on UNC Radio.
Oh, shalom, my friends, shalom, my enemies. This is your old pal, Rabbi Sol Solomon, founder and spiritual leader of Temple Sons of Bitches in Great Neck, New York. And I am delighted and thrilled, as usual, to be talking about Broadway and the theater and seeing it not just from orchestra seats, which I can't afford, but seeing it from the cheap seats as well. As a matter of fact, I have an expert on that, an actor, a director, and someone who fell in love with the theater back towards the waning days of Broadway's golden age. His name is Ron Fassler, and he's written a memoir called Up in the Cheap Seats, an historical memoir of Broadway. It's just come out, and you have to read it. What, you're not convinced? You're not sure yet? All right, let me prove it to you. He's on the phone with us now to talk about the book, and you'll see why. Shalom, Ron Fassler.
Shalom, Rabbi Sol, fellow Great Neckian.
That's right. I thought that for a while I was thinking of going to Little Neck to save money, but I just stayed in Great Neck.
We want to be in the Greater Neck.
Yeah.
Yes, I grew up there. That's my town.
Oh, any wonderful or horrible memories of Great Neck, New York?
No, it was a terrific place to grow up. The only sad part that I know about today, as opposed to the days when I was growing up there, is that they've slashed the budgets of what used to be one of the jewels in the crown of the school systems of America. I'll give you one example that helped me become the actor I am today. My high school did 8 productions a year, full-scale musicals, plays. We even did an entire opera with orchestra.
Gewalt.
I'm sad to say they don't do that anymore there.
And it's because of budget cuts, or just everything? The same budget, but everything's more expensive.
They decimated the arts all across America, it's just a terrible thing, because I think the arts saves lives.
You say as if, that made you an actor and that got you into the theater and stuff, but really, you were going to the theater before your high school was doing all this stuff. As a matter of fact, you open your book with a marvelous foreword all about Robert Preston. Please explain.
Yes. Well, he was the star of the first play musical that I ever went to, which was a 2-character musical that played on Broadway in 1966 and 67, and it was called I Do, I Do, and it still plays at theaters all across America because, it's a very cheap show to produce. It's only got 2 people in it. But the 2 people in this Broadway production were not only Robert Preston, the Music Man, but Mary Martin.
Of course. And by the way, I should say at this point, you knew, even as a child, who they were already from cast albums, yes?
Very much so, yeah. I was a little boy who got to see the movie of The Music Man on the big screen at the Radio City Music Hall when that was the premier movie palace in America. And I was 5 years old, and from the minute I saw Robert Preston singing and dancing on that screen, that's what I wanted to do with my life. So, as much like most young kids follow sports stars, I followed Robert Preston. And when I found out that he was on Broadway in I Do, I Do, I begged and begged and begged my parents, please take me to see Robert Preston. But they were too busy minding after the 5 other brothers and sisters I had. I came from a family of 6. And it was my lovely great Aunt Helen, my mother's aunt, who knew what Robert Preston meant to me and made it possible for me to see my very first Broadway show. And as you read in that chapter, it was a very magical night for a lot of reasons, which I'm going to urge anybody who might be tempted to read my book. That sets it up quite beautifully, because I've had a magical life, not only as an actor in the theater, as a theater goer. And this is my Valentine to Broadway. These are the stories of my going to the theater as a little boy. I was going into Manhattan from Great Neck on the train by myself at 12 years old, starting at 12 and seeing a show every week.
I'm not going to give away much of what happens in the book, but it's also a very cute moment because, for someone like the producer of this radio show, Dave, who was a theater critic for many, many years, he'd go to the theater 5-6 times a week, and it was still special, but it wasn't special like people who was like the first time you walk into the theater, or people who go maybe once or twice a year, and it's this big special event. And when you went to see I Do with Mary Martin and Robert Preston. But the great thing is, you're there, you feel it, you're amazed by everything around you, and you're thinking that everybody is staring at you, wondering, hoping that this little kid is going to have a wonderful time at the theater. You feel the eyes of people upon you, and that everybody's excited. Oh, I hope that little boy loves the show. They're all looking at you.
Welcome to the theater, kid.
And what was actually happening?
Well, they weren't looking at the kid sitting in row G. They were looking at the woman in row F, because seated directly in front of me was Lady Bird Johnson, who was then the First Lady of the United States. So I was there there was a heightened awareness of somebody famous in the theater, and I took all of that attention as if it was directed at me. It's an absolutely true story. And all I knew was she was a woman with big hair that I was trying to look past. Lady Bird Johnson had quite a helmet of hair there. But she prevented me from going backstage to meet Robert Preston that night because of the Secret Service detail. Because my aunt had slipped a note backstage. I got Robert Preston's #1 fan in the audience, and so it wasn't meant to be. But as you read that chapter, it does tell the tale about the time I did eventually meet Robert Preston as an adult, and then what happened from that meeting. So, again, Robert Preston was a great influence and a perfect choice for a hero of my book, because he was a heroic character in terms of his dedication to the stage and to screen and television. And he was everybody I've ever spoken with has told me what a charming and terrific guy he was, and the professional's professional. So I'm very glad I chose my hero wisely, and I've tried to study his principles whenever I've been involved in plays and musicals and film and television.
When you got to high school, did you start appearing and dealing and being in and backstage with those 8 musicals a year that they were doing?
Oh yeah, I was in every one of them. I mean, it was amazing. What an education. I mean, by the time I got to college at age 18, between that and some summer stock appearances, I'd been in over 30 plays and musicals.
Whoa! What were your favorite roles at that point?
Oh my gosh, I was Benny Southstreet in Guys and Dolls. I got to play Peter Pan, singing the songs in Mary Martin's key. That was not a great idea. I lost my voice.
Oh.
But it was an amazing time. I mean, to be able to be going to the theater every week and trying to glean and learn from some of the artists I was watching live and incorporate them into my own performances. So I was learning through osmosis, through observation, and I'm paying great attention to detail. So I've been telling stories my whole life about this period in my life when I went to the theater for 4 straight years and saw 200 Broadway shows in that span at an average ticket cost of about $3.
Now let's understand, $3 back then was probably $15, $20 now. So it's a lot. Yes, no, or yeah.
But I like to say to people, sure, everything's gone up over the years, but the price of a theater ticket has gone up out of whack with anything based in reality. So I'll give you an example. I sat in the last row to see something like 1776 for $3. Well, the last row in that very same theater now is for a musical called Hamilton.
Oh, well.
And the last row is $135. So the difference between $3 and $135, that is a 4,533% increase. Now, yes, the price of bread's gone up, the price of everything's gone up, but man, a 4,533% increase is out of whack.
Yeah, and we're not talking about the 1800s here. We're talking about 1970 something, right? Yeah.
I'm not an old man. We're only talking about 40-something years ago.
Well, Mazel, by the way, I think you just turned 60 years old, so yay for you.
I just turned 60. But I tell you, this was an extraordinary time to be around and about. I mean, Harold Prince, the great producer, director, he made his shows available to everybody that wanted to see them, because he always had $2 seats in the last row. So I saw the original company, the original Follies, the original Little Night Music for $2.
I don't understand why that still can't be done. I mean, now they have lotteries where you can buy, if you're lucky, you can get a ticket to certain shows for $40. And that's cheap.
That's about the cost of standing room nowadays. Standing room used to be a penalty, not a luxury.
I mean, it's just. By the way, did you go to see Hamilton? Did you cough up the $100
I definitely did. I saw it 3 times.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
Worth every penny of it. But I never paid more than the list price. I didn't do that silly thing where you pay $1,000 to see it. But
hey, look, you're an actor and you have enough money even to pay regular prices. Where's your money coming from? What shows are you in? I mean, TV shows. Or movie work. Not.
I've had a very long career in film and television, and I spent 30 of them in Los Angeles. So I sort of left the theater for a period of time to raise my children and do other things.
Wait a minute! Wait! Hold on! Yeah. You've spent all these years in the theater, and you're not homosexual? Oh my God! What a shock! I'm kidding.
People do ask me that, and I know it's a joke, but I am considering my next book being called A Straight Man's Guide to the Musical Theater.
3 people will buy it. Let me tell you. There's no audience.
Hey, Lin-Manuel Miranda grew up, singing and dancing in his bedroom, and,
I know. And by the way, when you were in New York and even doing theater and stuff, you were on, apparently, The Young and the Restless for a period of time.
Oh, my God.
What?
Oh, yeah. I've done all those. I've done everything you can do in the industry. I've been the voice of cartoon characters. I was the voice of the talking toilet bowl for Vanish on commercials.
Wow! Yeah. Oh, my... Really? Wow! I'm not making fun. I would love to be the voice of a talking toilet. Oh, my... Can you do your toilet voice?
Because it was 30 years ago, my voice could pitch very high, but I do remember the line.
Please! Yes.
Because we were actually... toilet bowls that had little corporals, stripes on the side, and we were being drilled by our sergeant. So we were like toilets in boot camp.
Yes.
I'm painting the scenario for your listeners. So the sergeant, shouts at me, how do we stay clean? And I say, sir, under Vanish's tough deodorant formula keeps things clean. That was me.
Wow. And part of that was weirdly blocked out by your telephone. I don't know why, but I still heard enough of it to be completely in awe. Oh.
No, take 2. I'm sorry. That took everything out of me.
Yeah.
But I'm very, very happy to be back in New York again. It's the perfect place to have finished the book and now start to promote it and get back to going to see theater again, although I am not any longer sitting up in the cheap seats. I can't afford to sit in better locations.
Oh, McMazel. So, and you got all that from being in films and TV residuals? Is that, that's how you got your nest egg?
There are some gifts that keep on giving. I was on one episode of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air in its very first season. It's never been off the air, Saul. In 30 years, it's never stopped running. Isn't that wild?
But don't you get like 4 cents for every time it airs or something like that?
What's that?
Don't you get 4 cents every time it?
Oh, it's actually pretty considerable. But every time I get that check, I think, gee, I wish I'd done 10 of these.
Well, yeah.
I wish I did 10 episodes of Fresh Prince. But I'm now interested in being what I hope this book is going to turn me into, and that is a chronicler of a history of Broadway, an articulate spokesman for both theater yesterday and today. And that's my blog, which is Theater Yesterday Today. And you can go to ronfassler.org, and I've got quite a website with lots of bells and whistles, so you'll see excerpts from the book. And from the more than 100 interviews I did for the book, because in order to paint the most vivid picture of what the theater was like back in the early 1970s, I went and visited with and spoke to 100 artists from that era, directors, writers, producers, designers, and I got the chance basically to hang with my idols, which was really, a gift.
Yeah, I should have mentioned that when we first brought you on, to say that, yes, this is your memoir. Yes, it's a book of you going to theater when you were a kid and a little bit older and seeing all these extraordinary shows and having these experiences. But also in this book, you talk to people like Hal Prince, Stephen Sondheim, Bette Midler, James Earl Jones, our friend of the neighborhood, Austin Pendleton, and Hal Linden, who have both been on this program, and the great Sheldon Harnick. So, it's not just your view. You're quoting people left and right.
Well, that's why I call the book a historical memoir of Broadway, because it's a hybrid. And I really don't know of another book quite like it, because it's both my personal memoir, and it's this journey of this little boy going to the theater and having these adventures, and it's also the perspectives from all the major players of the era. So it's both a memoir and an oral history of Broadway.
Now, do you have any fun anecdotes of when you were, I guess you called most of these people, but maybe you met some in person when you were doing when you were interviewing them or asking them questions. Any cool anecdotes of meeting your idols?
Yes, I mean, I have to tell you that Harold Prince, who probably was really one of the one or two greatest forces of the American theater for the latter part of the 20th century, both as producer and director. I mean, he was responsible, as producer for West Side Story and for Damn Yankees and for A Funny Thing Happened with the Forum and Fiddler on the Roof, and then as a director for Company and Follies and Phantom of the Opera. I mean, the guy is he's a legend. And I had, in my entire lifetime of going to the theater and hanging out in theater joints and being backstage, I never met the man. I never caught a glimpse of him in a restaurant. But the day he invited me to his office, he walked in, I was already seated, and he walked in, took his seat behind his desk, looked at me, and said, "You write a hell of a good letter." Because that's how I got to see him. I wrote him a letter, told him the book I was writing, and he invited me to his office. And then he said the three favorite words that anybody said to me through the whole process of 100 interviews. He said, "Call me Hal."
Oh, call me Hal. Wow. Oh, you must have been kvelling like crazy.
I'll be honest with you. After I walked out of his office, I was kind of floating on air. And the next day, when I woke up in the morning, I said, did I really meet Hal Prince yesterday, or did I dream it? It didn't feel real. Now, someone like Mike Nichols, another person I revered, was actually somebody I had the good fortune to work with and built a tiny, teeny, tiny relationship with. So when it came time for me to contact him to interview for the book, he graciously invited me to his home, and we were supposed to talk for a half an hour. We talked for a solid hour, just about his life in the theater. Didn't even touch on his life in movies.
Was he well? I mean, how long ago was this? Because he passed about a year or two ago.
It was 5 months before he died.
Oh.
I may have had the last interview with him. He was physically a little frail, but he was certainly 100% there, with his acumen and his energy and his sense of humor. It was a pleasure.
What?
Kind of shocking when I heard he passed. It really was. And that's the other mitzvah that's been done in the process, is that 7 of these people I spoke to in the 4 years it took me to write the book, 7 have passed away.
Who else?
Mike Nichols, the great Fritz Weaver, Tony Award-winning actor, the Tony Award-winning actor Ken Howard, the wonderful Emmy Award-winning Doris Roberts. It's tough. It's very tough. But I'm very grateful for all those that gave me their time.
Was there anybody who, maybe you don't want to say, was anybody a jerk? Was anybody kind of not nice?
Absolutely not.
Wow! Out of the 100, you were battering 1,000?
There's no question. No, not even. I wouldn't even hesitate. Everybody was gracious and forthcoming and sweet and generous.
So give me another little forspice from the book, an anecdote, a story of you were going to see a show or meeting someone back in the day when you went backstage later on, getting an autograph, etc.
Well, here's the great thing. I did sit in the cheap seats for the very first time when I saw Fiddler on the Roof, the original Broadway production of Fiddler on the Roof. Now, by that time, it was in its 4th year. It eventually ran 7 years, and Zero Mostel had been long gone. But I saw a wonderful actor named Harry Goz, and when the show was over, I do not know what possessed me, but I just turned to my two friends, because I was there with my two friends and their mother. We all went together. And I turned to the boys and I said, come on, let's go backstage. To this day, I don't know what possessed me. I must have thought it came with the price of your admission ticket. And I knocked on the door, and they graciously let me backstage. And I was suddenly in the star dressing room meeting this lovely actor, Harry Goss, who was very kind and signed our playbills. And from that day on, that's how I did it. I decided then and there that if a ticket was only $3, I could afford it. I had a paper route on Long Island.
You were making $12 a day or an hour or something like so. You were making $12 an hour. You're making like $12 a day or a week, so you could.
A week, $12 a week. That's my full budget to buy a theater ticket, to get in on the train, to buy a subway token. Yes, subway tokens, and my lunch, and my copy of Variety. Okay.
Oh, there you go. Of course. Hey, what was the worst show that you saw in those years? What was a show that you before you had critical faculties kind of knew it was a stinker?
Well, I'll give you two answers to the question.
Sure.
First, a friend of mine loves to ask people, what was the first Broadway show you ever saw that made you realize, oh, wow, they're all not going to be so great? Because most people, those little kids go to see a hit show, right? No parents take their kid to a bomb. And then eventually you come across a show that you go, whoa. And for me, that was the ninth show I saw. And I guess I should also stop and just say, the reason I know it was the ninth show is that I came home from every one of these plays and wrote my reviews. That's why I can tell you that I saw 200 shows in 4 years. I have the proof.
Wow.
2 loose-leaf binders. I wrote my reviews of every show. And they say play number 9, play number 15, play number 175, what I paid for it, who starred in it, and my review.
You were basically doing you were writing the season even before William Goldman ever thought of it.
That's very good reference. Yes, I did, and I thank God my mother didn't throw these away because I have them, and that's how I was able to write the book based on. And I do reproduce some of the reviews in the book, and I will just tell you that I was not shy, and my gift of hyperbole was was very strong even at 12 years old because I called Hello Dolly gripping.
Oh, good. Okay, there you go.
To give an idea of how funny they are. So, getting back to that question, what was the first play I saw that I went, oops, they're all not going to be so great? It was play number 9, and it was a musical called George M. That starred Joel Grey, and it was about George M. Cohan. And this is what I wrote in my review. My hopes were high, but they fell faster than a bird with no wings.
How old were you?
I was 12.
Yeah, okay.
I was experimenting with metaphor, but, you got to give a kid a break, right?
Oh, no.
But then you asked, what was the worst show I ever saw? And I do devote a chapter that I call The Bomb. And even though it wasn't really the worst show, because I saw so many bad ones, out of 200, the majority of them were not good.
Oh.
I mean, I saw some overwhelmingly brilliant things, but there were a lot of crap that I had to sit with. And even then, even at a young age, I was discerning enough to figure out, to separate it from the good from the bad. But the musical that I chose to sort of, encompass all the bombs was this musical called Dude, D-U-D-E.
Oh, my, was that like a 1970s gay thing or something?
No.
No, it's the hair people, wasn't it?
Yeah, 2/3 of the hair team did it, yes. And they gutted the Broadway theater, and they turned it into a circus. And oh, what a circus it was. First of all, I knew something was up when the ad in the Sunday Times, which was the way I figured out what was coming to Broadway. There was no internet. I had to wait until the Sunday Times came out, and there was an ad for a new show. And I said, okay, I'll get tickets for that for next week. And that's how I did it. Well, when I opened up the ad in the Times, and it was for Dude, it actually did not say there were seats in the orchestra, butt mezzanine, and rear mezzanine. No. They had seats in the hills and the valleys and the treetops. It was very hippy-dippy. So I took my seats in the treetops for $3, and mayhem ensued.
Well, hey, wait.
Bulging trash basket of a musical by Tom Hanks.
That's good. I gotta steal that for something or other. Was there a show that you expected to suck and turned out to be great?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm trying to think.
Because you're supposed to go in with an open mind and a tabula rasa and hope everything's going to be good.
I still go to the theater, to be honest with you, open-minded. I'm always hoping I'm going to have a transcendent experience. You know, even if I've already read some reviews. Well, that happened. I mean, I went to see, like, for instance, I would buy my tickets for a show for Saturday afternoon, and it probably opened on the Thursday night. So the reviews are out on Friday, and I'm saddled with a bomb that is closing on Saturday. I can't tell you how many shows I saw the second to last performance of by that Saturday night. I did walk into the theater one day in 1969 for a sex farce called Angela, starring the great Academy Award winner Geraldine Page.
Oh.
And she was in this awful comedy. It opened Thursday to terrible reviews. Clyde Barnes in the New York Times said, for some reason, I can't explain, Angela opened last night at the Music Box Theater. And when I walked into the Music Box Theater with my seats in the last row of the balcony, I handed them to the usher downstairs, and as I started to head up the stairs, she stopped me and said, oh, honey, please, just sit wherever you want. There were 40 people. That was it.
Oh, my.
Theater. There were 40 people there.
Gewalt. And yet, I'll bet, and this experience has happened to me, and it's happened to Dave, the producer of the show, where it's crappy reviews. Oh, yeah, it's going to close that weekend. You go in and you go, hey, this was good. This is pretty good.
So now I can answer that question. I remember a play called The Engagement Baby. And it got terrible reviews on Thursday. Open Thursday, terrible reviews Friday. I went to the second to last performance on Saturday. And I thought it was hilarious. And get this, even though it closed in 4 performances, it sold to the movies. It was made into a movie, and the co-starring role was Denzel Washington's feature film debut.
What? And was it still called The Engagement Baby? Did they change the name for the movies?
No, it was called Carbon Copy.
Oh, my God, oh, okay. Now, with George Segal, right?
Oh, man, you pulled that one.
Yeah, I pulled that one. Oh, yes, I'm good at that sort of thing.
Yes, it was about a middle-aged man who finds out he has a grown son who is black. And so in 1970, that was like, oh, he has a black son, But it made me laugh. The play made me laugh.
Well, that's all it's meant to do. There was a show that Denzel Washington was in 10 years later called Checkmates that was very entertaining. Sorry.
That closed pretty quickly.
Yeah, it was entertaining. It was cute. It was fun. The critics called it garbage. It wasn't. And it was a nice little show. It happens,
Well, and there were many shows, really, that the critics killed that I enjoyed. And that happens to this day.
Of course.
That it was ever thus.
Now, we're talking, by the way, with Ron Fassler. He's the author of Up in the Cheap Seats from Griffith Moon Publishing. And one of the nice things about this, it's wonderful that you got this particular company because mostly they do art books. So the look and feel of your book is quite. The typeface, the pictures that they have in it. It doesn't look like desktop self-publishing. This is a real book by a book company.
It's a very elegantly produced book, and I was thrilled when they wanted me to be one of their early nonfiction books that was not an art book. And I'm very proud to say I am at the moment their best-selling book.
Yay! Well, with that,
Thank you.
From what I've read so far, the book is absolutely terrific. I've read. Yeah, sorry.
Thank you. And I must say that if your listeners are going to go to Amazon to grab it, it's not available there yet. We're making it available exclusively through Griffith Moon because it's just in all of our best interests. Amazon's a wonderful company, but it's not very nice to first-time writers like myself. It's too onerous a deal. I'd like to make a few dollars on this book, if at all possible, hard as that is to make money from a book.
Well, let me ask, how did you get the contract to especially from a publisher that usually does art books and not memoirs and Broadway things? How did you?
It was based on a personal connection, and the head of the company knew me and was very interested in my story and felt it was something worthy of her company, and so I'm very, very pleased it's worked out for both of us.
So far, and yes, I'm.
So well, and I'm thrilled they did such a beautiful job with it.
Because I've got to say, as I said, I've read only the first couple of chapters here, but even just the Fiddler on the Roof chapter, now granted I have a bias towards that subject matter and musical, but it's a beautiful, chapter. And when you talk about the show itself, and you got a quote from Harvey Fierstein in there, who ended up playing Tevye.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a moving quote, the way he sees that character. It's just, it's a brilliantly...
Well, I'm very happy to share it with your audience. I pretty much have it here at my fingertips. And I must tell you, I didn't get to talk to Harvey for the book. Our timing was off. But I found this quote that I doubt he could have actually been able to do better than if we spoke. Because it's from a very, really incredibly rare, he did a talk back after a performance of Fiddler when he was touring in it in Texas.
God.
This is how I found that quote of an audio podcast by a general search on Google that I heard him say this. And here's what he said. He said there's always been this sort of theory that Tevye is an everyman and that he just happens to be the guy in town who tells you these stories, but I don't believe that. To me, he's the one God chose to survive. He's the only person in that village who could come up with that dream. He's the only one who loves his children so that he's willing to bend that far to breaking, to accept them. And what that allows, and what his imagination allows, and what his capacity for love allows, is for him to go from a life of fundamentalism, because this is a fundamentalistic life, to a modern life. He survives to go to America, and he survives in America.
I mean, and also in the context of the chapter, and when you're talking about what Fiddler means and why it's universal and also very important to Jews, it isn't just a sad little ending where they leave Anatevka and we think they're all going to end up dying in the constant, or not even getting anywhere, dying in more pogroms elsewhere, that there's a hopeful note at the end of Fiddler, and that's why. So this is a beautiful... Now, you said that, amazingly enough, before we got you on the air, that as important as Fiddler is to you as a theater goer and culturally, the Judaism part didn't really hit you until another show by the folks who made Fiddler. Explain.
That's exactly right. There's a chapter in the book that I devote to a musical called The Rothschilds, which was the final musical that the team of Jerry Bach and Sheldon Harnick, who wrote Fiddler, created. Their partnership ended with that musical. They had been together for about, I think maybe 14 years or so, and they produced really brilliant shows. They did She Loves Me. They won the Pulitzer Prize and the Tony for Fiorello. I mean, they were a force to be reckoned with. And they had an upsetting experience on the Rothschilds, which I get into in the book. And Sheldon Harnick, who at, close to 90 years old, sat with me and told me some of these stories about what happened, and I revealed them in the book, and I think you might be reading them the first time, because this partnership, devastated them and devastated their fans, because they each went on to live. I mean, Harnick is still alive, working, and, being creative at 90. But Jerry Bach lived until his 80s. They could have been creating musicals for 40 years together, but this falling out was a permanent one. They could have had a career as long as Candronet's. And we all wish and dream what might have been, but that shoulda, coulda. But the musical, The Rothschilds, is, to me, out of the 200 shows I saw, the near miss. To me, the one musical that came closest to being a big hit and a success, but it didn't quite get there.
Right.
And so I spoke with everybody who is still alive from that production, including its star Hal Linden, and including all 5 of the Rothschild sons, because it's really the musical, the Rothschilds and Sons is actually the reworked title of the musical, because they're trying to get it a second life after all these years.
Wait, actually, did you, I think the York Theater or somebody did Rothschilds a year or two ago. Did you see that?
I attended the opening night, and I got to watch Sheldon Harnick, at probably then 88 years old, jump out of his seat at the curtain call. It was quite a sight. You can give it a standing ovation.
But did they fix it?
The musical. I think it's a wonderful show.
Okay. So, but was this new version improving on the original?
To be honest, I don't think so. The musical, when it's pared down like that, loses what I think made that Bowie production so splendid. It had a brilliant set. It had an incredible orchestra. I miss all that. And a chorus. They did this production at the York Theater in New York with about 9 people and 2 pianos. So it's very different.
Not the same. Okay, yeah.
And at the time of the Rothschilds in 1970, it was a very expensive musical. It came in, I think it was budgeted at $850,000, which in those days was a fortune. And it lost the majority of its investment, even though it ran a year. It was running basically a loss, never selling out. But I really, really adored that show, and I had to dig deep, because if I'm going to write about it, why? I mean, just to write in my book. I really liked it. It's not really good writing. What was it? Why did it speak to me? And it suddenly dawned on me that I saw it 6 months after what was supposed to be my bar mitzvah. Because, Rabbi, I'm a Hebrew school dropout.
Oh! God damn it! Shame on you! Why?
Hebrew school. I explain it in the book.
Well, I haven't gotten that far. Remember, I'm Jewish. I read from right to left, so I've started from the back.
Well, it's the later chapter. You're going to have to hit it at chapter 7. But I was a bad Jew. I was a bad Jew, Rabbi. But I discovered my Judaism 6 months after what would have been my bar mitzvah at 13 and a half, from the cheap seats at the Fontaine Theater the day I saw the Rothschilds.
But what was it, because you realized how important money is to Jews? I mean, no, kidding. Kidding.
That's a good one.
Thank you.
That's a good one.
Thank you, man.
Credit for that one. The thing is, I wasn't able to relate to what was being taught in Hebrew school in terms of the stories from the Bible. But it wasn't until I saw these Jews living in the ghetto and being locked in at night, and their dignity being stripped away from them, and their struggle to get out from under that oppression, it moved me deeply. And as I say in the book, sometimes it takes a hit on the head to strike a blow to the heart.
Oh, that's good.
It really touched me, and I get into all the reasons why the show had that effect on me, and why I think anybody should go out. It's still in print, and either download it, as an MP3, or buy the CD itself. But the Rothschilds' original cast album is really one of the great cast albums. Just if you start the first notes of the overture, and I think you'll be hooked.
In my own lifetime, yeah, exactly. We're talking with. Sorry, I missed that. What?
I was just saying, Sheldon Harnick is truly one of our great lyricists.
Absolutely, and we are talking with Ron Fassler. He is the author of Up in the Cheap Seats from Griffith Moon Publishing. A couple of more questions for you about the theater, and also a little bit about movies, because you've had that long career also in other media. So you've had roles in such films as Charlie Wilson's War, which stars a couple of people folks may have heard of: Tom Hanks, Julia Roberts, the late Philip Seymour Hoffman. Did you meet with them? Did you work with them? Any anecdotes? Any stories?
Yes, you opened up Pandora's box without knowing it. This is a great story. I'm only in the movie for a brief moment. I play a tiny role. I think I have 1 or 2 lines. They did it for me as a favor, because I came late to the process when the film had been cast. But I got a call that they were going to do a reading of the movie out loud, and would I come in and help out? And Mike Nichols kind of fell in love with me, and he asked me if I would be the person during the first week of the movie's rehearsals, which was sitting at a table with Mike Nichols on my left, Tom Hanks on my right, and then every actor from the movie dropping in to read their scenes. Julia Roberts, Philip Seymour Hoffman, John Slattery, Ned Beatty, Amy Adams. It was ridiculous. And I spent a week with Mike Nichols and Tom Hanks. That was the gift Charlie Wilson's War gave to me.
Whoa.
Not on my resume. It's not on my resume, but that is one of the great weeks of my life as an actor.
And so, in other words, when you were at the table, they would play to you? Was that the deal?
I played all the other parts.
Oh.
The fill-in actor.
Whoa.
Because these were private little rehearsals to talk about the parts, and I would just listen to Philip Seymour Hoffman ask questions of Mike Nichols and Julia Roberts, and it was a fly on the wall. I got to watch how this process is done when it's done the right way.
Oh boy. Now, speaking of doing things the right way, another film that you were in, and I don't know the size of the part or anything, but you were in For Your Consideration, which is a Christopher Guest.
A nice little part. Yeah, I got to work with Clint Eastwood, who is amazing. I mean, he's kind of a Zen master of movie making. You You wouldn't even know he's the director.
Wait. What movie are you talking about?
Wait, didn't you say, which one did you say?
I said, For Your Consideration, which was the Christopher Guest.
I'm sorry, so let's backtrack.
Yeah, well, talk about Clint Eastwood first. Okay.
Yes, Flags of Our Fathers.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry. And he's, like I said, a Zen master. You wouldn't even know he's the director of the film. He sits in his chair, he's very quiet, and when he's ready to roll, he just gets up and he doesn't say action. He just goes, okay, I think we're ready. Let's do it. And basically you have one shot at it. He's not interested in doing more than 1 or 2 takes. Really. He just likes it natural. He trusts he's hired good actors. He doesn't give direction. I never saw him give any direction. He just lets everybody do their thing, and his movies always turn out pretty darn well.
Well, yeah, he's one of our best directors.
For Your Consideration was one of Chris Guest's movies,
right?
Which, as I'm sure you and your audience knows, are completely improvised. They are totally and completely improvised. You do not have a script. You know the general nature of the scene, what your purpose in the scene is, and even when you're rehearsing to get the proper camera movement before they roll the cameras, you don't even speak words. He wants you to talk in gibberish. You say blah, 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 blah. He wants it all safe for camera so that when it rolls, you are truly improvising on the spot. And then he'll make these minor adjustments. The problem with For Your Consideration was that I'm on the cutting room floor, and it was one of the funniest sequences in the movie. But they tested the movie, and nobody got the joke.
What was it?
I'll tell you what the joke was.
Yes, please.
How I got the part. I do a great imitation of Ed Sullivan. And Chris Guest invented a restaurant in Los Angeles called Sullivan's. You're greeted at the door by the maitre d', who is Ed Sullivan. You go to the bartender's Ed Sullivan. The busboys and the waiters are all Ed Sullivan.
Okay, that is funny already. So why didn't that test?
Nobody knows
who Ed Sullivan is anymore.
That's the sad part.
Hey.
And I got to do this wonderful scene with Catherine O'Hara, and I'm telling you, it broke my heart. And he's not the kind of guy that will put it as a DVD extra. You know, the movie is the movie, and that's that. He even went on David Letterman, which is broadcast from the Ed Sullivan Theater, to promote the film, and said, my favorite scene in the movie didn't make it into the picture. Because it was Ed Sullivan's, we're in his theater, we're in his space.
Well, one thing you can do for us is, can you do the line of the talking toilet that you did again? But, and I'm giving you direction here, but can you do it in Ed Sullivan's voice? You got to prove that you can do this here.
Yes. Oh, here we go, yeah. Well, let me just say that the autumn flush is a marvelous product and a really, really big feeding factor in your toilet bowl expertise. And now, Topo Zizia.
That was very good. Is there any other impression that you're quite good at? Since you're a voice artist and you do cartoons, is there any other?
I'm very fond of my James Mason.
Oh wow! As if people.
The time I have a picture to go out with the boys. I saw you with that Roy, Drax, and I absolutely forbid you to go out with the boys.
Very good. Very good.
My other favorite British actor, Alec Guinness. These are not the droids you want. Keep on driving, and may the Force be with you. Always.
Nice. Very nice. You go for the Brits quite a bit.
No market for dead. There's no market for these dead actors I can do.
I know, right? You might as well do Fatty Arbuckle at this point. Who'd know?
I'm telling you, exactly.
Well, we've been talking with the very fun Ron Fassler. He is, I remind you one last time, the author of Up in the Cheap Seats, a historical... since you're Brit-oriented, it should be an historical memoir of Broadway.
We went back and forth on that. It sounds better, but it doesn't look as good.
It doesn't. You need the A.
Right.
a historical memoir of Broadway, which is from Griffith Moon Publishing. You can get it only from their website at this point, or just check out his website, ronfassler.org. As I said, I've read only a little bit of it, but I know I am really going to read this book cover to cover because it's quite wonderful so far. My last question for you is, are you directing any more shows at like Priscilla Beach Theater? Do you fly out there?
Yes, I can take a bus there now. Yes, I'm going to be returning to this summer stock theater that I first performed in when I was a teenager, and that was 50 years ago, and almost. And I am there this summer directing the producers.
Oh, the producers! Oh, mit Mazel.
The college students.
Now, let me ask you, I might as well, because that film, not even so much the musical, but was that as important and special to you as a theater person, as a Jew person, as it is to so many of our generation?
I mean, Mel Brooks.
Oh, yeah.
Water for me as a kid. I think I memorized the producers, when I first saw it.
And the first 20 times you saw it, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That was in the days before you could take home a VHS tape and watch it over and over again.
So let me ask then, well, can you tell us specifically, is it like your next book that you're working on? Are you going to be doing like reviews of shows of this past season or two, or what's your latest thing?
I consider myself a critic. I consider myself more of a theater historian.
Okay.
For instance, here in New York, they're doing an off-Broadway production of William Inge's Picnic from 1953. And I wrote a column on it today on my blog, and it's not a review. It's really a history of Picnic and what it meant to audiences in 1953 and what it means to audiences today. I'm not really into, I liked it for this reason, I didn't like it for that reason, so-and-so was good, so-and-so was bad. I like to write about the theater of yesterday and today and make cases for, what's old and what's new, but not based on personal opinion, but based on the history that each show brings and the baggage that make it historical.
I hear. Let me give us one more anecdote, though. Give us one more bit from the book of a great story of your early-ish theater going. When you saw those 200 shows.
I'll tell you something interesting. I used to go backstage and meet all the actors, which of course today you cannot do. They don't let you backstage anymore. Even if I have a friend in the show, they treat me like I'm on enemy territory. They say, wait right here, he'll come down. They don't want you. In the old days, I would knock on the door, and I'd say, Henry Fonda, please, and they'd go, the first door on the left. And they let me go see him.
Wow.
They don't want people wandering around the theaters anymore. It's a very different time. I get it. But I was very fortunate to be able to go backstage and meet Julie Harris and Maureen Stapleton and all these extraordinary, men and women of that day. But once I figured out this thing that sort of changed my life, I was always asking for their autograph because that was my permanent,
Sure.
Right? And I was talking with the great Colleen Dewhurst, who was a two-time Tony winner and a great actress. And I was having such a deep and nice conversation with her about the play she was in. And I was only like 14 years old. And I finally reached out with my playbill and a pen. And I said, would you sign my program? And she looked at me like a little disappointed, like, I thought we were having a conversation. I can't believe you really just want an autograph. She didn't say that, but I could just tell from the expression on her face. And while she was signing it, you know what she said to me?
What?
She said, I should be asking you for your autograph. And that was just one of the sweetest things anyone ever said to me. And when I walked out of the dressing room, I went, okay, I'm done with that. I don't need anybody's autograph anymore. It's not important.
It's more important to be in their presence and to still meet them and talk with them like, about the art.
Yeah. That's right. That's exactly right.
Well, you are welcome. If we ever meet in person, you are welcome to ask for my autograph. I'll give it to you in Hebrew, even. I'm still honored to be asked. What can I tell you?
I'm still in love with the way you say the title of my book. Why don't you say it one more time and we can get out of here?
Up in the cheap seats. I wish I knew how to say that in Hebrew. A historical or an historical memoir of Broadway by Ron Fassler. Ron, by the way, may I call you, what is your Hebrew name?
They gave me the Hebrew name of Ron. That was a cheat.
Oh, yeah, all right. I'll call you Ron then. Ronala, it has been
Ronala.
joyful and a delight to talk with you. I wish you much success with your current writing in the blog, as well as this book, which everybody should absolutely read and devour. It's terrific, and I thank you for being with us in the neighborhood. Shalom to you.